Hey, it's a Humble Collector here. Today's video, we're going to take a look at the two-panel death card of Fritz Haller. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So going from the top here, we have a nice, almost half-panel photo, or more than half-panel photo of Fritz. And then moving down to the bottom. O Lord, I will ask you by the blood of my death, let the hope in our hearts not have been a dream. In silent remembrance and prayer to our second fallen hero, son, and brother, Fritz Haller, of Bodenmais, Unteroffizier in the Gebirgsjager Regiment, born on July 18th, 1924, died on August 28th, 1944. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find a casualty record for Fritz, but I did find a hit from him on Volksboon that notes that he was an Oberjäger and that he was killed at Poiana Teiului. Botched that, I apologize, but it's in Romania. And based off the location of his death, I did some digging, and, given he was in a Gebirgsjager unit, I knew that the 3rd was down in that area at the time, and I do actually have their unit history here, which is Odyssey Einer Gebirgs Division by Karl Rueff. And in this book, starting on page 524, we kind of have it talking about what was going on at the time of Fritz's death. But most importantly, there's a map here from October that actually shows the area around where I found that village of Poiana. So definitely based off that, it seems that he was part of the 3rd Gebirgs Division and was fighting in the area at the time. What unit specifically he was with, unfortunately, we don't know. But going through what's written in the unit history here, whoever or whatever was to blame for the collapse of Army Group South Ukraine, the soldiers of the 3rd Gebirgs Division found themselves caught in a tributary of the Red Tide from August 24th, which was so strong that it washed them to the Titsa after weeks of hard fighting. The first few days were confusing and depressing for everyone. While the left wing had been fighting hard since August 19th against the 240th Soviet Rifle Division, which had been on the attack, and the 138th Gebirgsjager Regiment and the Field Replacement Battalion, with the support of the 2nd and 4th Battalions of Gebirgs Artillery Regiment 112 deployed there, defended or refreed the strong points on the contested wooded heights, the largest part of the Romanian battalion deployed there left the positions without a sound. The danger that the Russians would advance into the Moldova Valley, which turns west here, and over the Jakobeni Pass into the Bistritz Valley, had to be prevented by mobilizing all eastern forces. No sooner had this been achieved than Colonel Teodorescu, who, with his staff and the bulk of his units, was positioned in the middle of the 3rd's defensive front, turned his front against his previous allies, ordering the trusting and probably also careless garrison of the firing position of the 6th Battery of the 112th Gebirgs Artillery Regiment to be dug out and took up positions on the heights west of the 144th Gebirgsjager Regiment. All units deployed in the Baja Suha area suddenly found themselves facing two fronts, the Russian front in front and the Romanian front a few kilometers to the rear. Here, too, prolonged deliberation was in vain. The narrow forest valley with the ancient fortified monastery of Slatina forks into many trenches a few kilometers west of the monastery, from which crossings led into the upper Moldau Valley to Regimental Combat Group 138, but also to the Bistritz Valley. Further east, a road leads through the Suha Valley to the Orel Pass and beyond to Borka in the Bistritz Valley. In this situation, General Klotz had no choice but to form two regimental combat groups. The reinforced 138th Gebirgsjager Regiment in the upper Moldova Valley in the area between Gura, Humora, and Wama, and the 144th in the Middle Valley between Raska and Slatina. The primary goal was to eliminate the Romanian threat, to clear the ridge and the crossings of the Bistritz Valley, and to be able to withdraw there. Already, south of the Pluton Pass, remnant German groups were engaged in combat with Soviet troops advancing up the Bistritz Valley. The 1st Battalion of Gebirgsjager Regiment 144 was initially deployed against the Romanians. Captain Henschenberger had led his battalion for about 8 days. When he emerged by bypassing the rear of the Border Guard Battalion, and Romanians recognized the former liaison officer, they immediately sent negotiators to him. The non-commissioned officers and soldiers were alone, Henschenberger recounted. All the officers had deserted or were with Colonel Teodorescu up in the mountains. I demanded of the negotiators that the battalion disband immediately, otherwise our artillery and my Jaegers would destroy it. In a few hours, I would fire red flares, and the Romanians would have to run up the valley without weapons and without uniforms. If this did not happen, our attack would begin. The negotiators agreed to this solution. When the red flares shot into the sky, the valley teemed with running men in their underpants. Teodorescu didn't hold the positions for long either. Regimental Group 144 took possession of the Suha Valley and the Orel Pass. From now on, weeks of withdrawal battles through the Carpathians, Transylvania, and along the Titsa began for the 3rd Gebirgs Division. From now on, this division was once again torn apart, marching and fighting with other units, having to plug holes, overcome crises, and often being a savior in times of dire need. The fighting in the Carpathians depended on the major situation in the south, where the Soviets advanced en masse towards the Hungarian plain and easily blocked the westward route of the remnants of the German 6th and 8th armies along the middle reaches of the Tisza. With the Anglo-Americans advancing into France since the beginning of June, the Wehrmacht's internal structure having become fragile following the assassination attempt on Hitler on July 20th, and the German Eastern Army still dangerous, but already mortally wounded, the Red Army, despite its equally severely depleted infantry, was able to win whenever and wherever it wanted, thanks to its prodigious mechanization and heavy weaponry. So, as we can see, there are incredibly chaotic conditions going on the southern front, where Fritz is fighting at the time, and the 3rd Gebirgs Division as well. And it's no surprise that the exact location and cause of his death wasn't recorded. There's just so much going on, so much chaos during those withdrawals. Now, a few other things of note here. You'll notice at the bottom of the card, we have the life and the death runes, the Leben und Tod runes. You don't really ever see them on death cards. I only have a handful in my collection that actually use the runes. I don't know if that's because the clashing of kind of the runic pagan nature of these with the very Christian nature of death cards. It's a little unclear. I wanted to also point out the note here of Fritz being the second fallen son from this family. I did actually find 2 other Hallers that were born in Bodemais on Volksbund, Xavier Haller and Franz Xavier Haller. Xavier was born on October 24th, 1912, and was a pilot who was killed at Vitebsk on June 8th, 1942. And Franz Xavier was an Unteroffizier born on May 16th, 1912, and was killed at a forest 2 kilometers north of the Borki Church on Olim, 60 kilometers south of Yelets, on July 9th, 1942. So it's possible that one of these was Fritz's brother. It's also possible that they were just cousins or something similar. And interestingly also, this Bodemais here, we've had a lot of videos from people from Bodemais. I think about a dozen cards in my collection from the Wolfel family that's also from there. And actually, this card is laid out very similar to some of theirs as well. I'm guessing that's the same maker. They'll have to check that later. Now, moving to panel 2 here on the back of the card, we have a nice HCOM 607 backing, which is one that you don't see very often, actually. Radiant Youth, our youngest, a second victim fell to us in a fight with a bleeding heart. A Viat, I don't know what that is, that's an abbreviation or something. Upwards eternally will crown such heroes with bliss. You and your loved ones will never be forgotten. Praying love shall unite us faithfully. It is God's will that one must part with what is most dear to one. So yeah, really interesting card. Even though we weren't able to figure out exactly what unit Fritz was with, I'm fairly confident he was with the 3rd Gebirgs Division. I can't say for certain because there is also the chance that he wasn't serving in the Gebirgs Division at the time of his death. He might have transferred at some point. It's also possible that he was with another Gebirgs unit and gotten separated and was then, alongside the 3rd here while they're fighting in Romania. But regardless, really interesting card, full of a lot of detail that we don't normally see. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below. Love hearing from you. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting, and I will see you all again very soon.